As a reminder, regular school committee meetings are televised and recorded. So could I have a roll call, please?
President Katie Dugan.
Present Jean Estino.
President Ellen Mar. President Jen Madden.
Okay, and I don't know that Mrs. Stefan will be joining us tonight. She had a loss in her family, and I told her that it's more important to stay with her family right now. So, and not to worry about us. We'll and fill her in. So we'll now recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is invitation to speak. And I don't believe there's anybody who wishes to speak tonight. Next on the agenda is the approval of the warrant. And I did come and review the bills yesterday. So could I please get a motion to approve warrant 18-12S?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I Katie Dugan.
Roll call, sorry. I, Jean Estino.
I Ellen Mar. I Jen Madden.
And next is the superintendent's report.
Good evening. Greg Taylor is going to join us. I did tell him it was 7 o'clock, so I don't know if there is an accident on the junction of Route 3A, so he may be tied up there. So hopefully when he comes in, we can introduce him to you. He was here earlier this morning at the superintendent's coffee, and very well received. We had a nice chat. We also have with us tonight Spotlight, Educator Spotlight, and I am thrilled. And sang their praises to Joe Mastino the other day too, who was hoping to be here, but she is not. She had another commitment as well. Don Amelia and Michael Stapleton, I'm sorry, my tongue is asleep, have joined in a co-teaching model, and we talked about what that looked like and how they organized, and it being budget season and budget negotiations, I thought that we would look into how they organized their classrooms and the earlier stages of their partnership in the classroom for grade 6. So if you want to take a seat right up there. Okay, sure. That'd be great.
Thank you, Mother Chair.
Yeah.
They've been wonderful.
Yeah, so thanks for having us. So we figured that it made sense tonight to talk about, because we know you guys have been supportive in this endeavor, as it kicked off. So we figured we'd just briefly talk about how we got to where we were today, and then some of the successes that we've seen over the years so far, and then just moving forward. So about a year ago, I think we started our co-teaching adventure by going to a 2-day workshop that kind of laid the ground for what co-teaching looks like at a middle school and high school level. And it was beneficial to learn about the different styles and kind of to get the vision of what we wanted to see happen. And then we had a full day sponsored by Carolyn this summer where we got to work together and talk about what that would look like here at Cohasset Middle High School. This resource here has been great, and I know as we move forward with co-teaching and hoping to implement it more at the middle high school, this got our conversation really started, I think, about Donna's strengths and my strengths and how we can put them together and kind of create a dynamic classroom. And I think the literature jokes that it's a marriage between two teachers. So it would be Donna's content knowledge marriage with my knowledge of the different strategies to make all learners successful. So I think that balance is what this year has been about so far, in learning each other's styles and how we can work together to make it successful.
Yeah, and I think that as someone who's been in a classroom, this is my 7th year in Cohasset, and not a classroom that's co-taught, classroom where I might have a special educator who works with me, this model has been wonderful. And it was funny because today we said to the children, we were videotaping, we'll show you a short little videotape of our room. When we were videotaping, of course, we had to explain to the children why we were videotaping. We said we were going to meet with the school committee and share with them our experience working together as co-teachers. And they said, well, what are you going to say? And we said, that's great, right? And we said, well, what do you think? Right? We said to the children, well, what do you think? And a resounding positive feedback from everyone in the room. And I think that's one of the things that's been very interesting to me when I had special educators come in the past, they would tend to, for lack of a better word, hover around the children that they were working with. And that's not what happens in a co-taught classroom. Mike and I are both working all the time. The children think we are both the teacher. There is no distinction. It is be surprising to me if any child in the room knew who was on an IEP and who wasn't, because all the children benefit, and that's what they told us today. Every child in the room said, it's so great that you're both here because Mr. Stapleton will explain it one way and then you'll explain it another way, or Mr. Stapleton will put a visual while you are helping somebody. We can always get help.
Right, and like being able to complement each other and see, so like Donna's content knowledge is great, so like she can start one conversation and I can kind of get a vibe for how the class is doing, whether everyone's understanding, and then find different strategies to support them like in real time. And I think if you think about just the classroom setup in itself, having two educators like present at one time can really help get a lot done. And make things like, move things forward quickly, but also like find areas weaknesses that you would need to support like right away in real time.
And in the planning, like because we plan a lesson together, we say, okay, today we're going to teach this. And then when we're sitting down and planning, I'm thinking content. I'm thinking what are the standards. I'm thinking what skills do the students need to work on. Mike's thinking about that, but he's also thinking about how can we make this accessible to everybody. How can we design the lesson so that everybody understands it? And what's really another interesting thing to me is that I teach 5 classes in grade 6, and this is the only co-taught class. When I go to grade papers and exams, the performance is better across the board in the co-taught class. And people might think differently because of the percentage of students we have on IEPs in that class, but I think it's a matter of having 2 teachers and having it explained 2 ways and making it accessible to everyone. And a lot of the things that Mike will do in that room, I'll say, well, that was great. I'm going to do it in my other classroom, even though I'm just by myself. So,
like the image of like a kaleidoscope and be able to see things through different lenses,
yeah.
and how since we bring 2 different skill sets to the table, we can really like help the entire group as a whole.
Right, so just some other observations we wanted to share with you. One, which I had already mentioned, that kids do see us equally. From day one, we presented as co-teachers. I'm not sure that they're aware of our different roles, content versus special education. I think they see us equally, and that's evidenced when we have a utility block when students can go for extra help. The students that are in our room will go either place. All the students will maybe go to Mike for extra help or to me for extra help. So I don't think there's a distinction. I think it's great that they see us equally. Technology. So we use technology obviously quite a bit, but our classroom page, our Google Classroom, has both of us. And that, Mike will post something or I will post something. I'll just go down. So today we were reading a story and questions, and Mike put it up there in case anybody lost it. I might put this up there, the directions, PowerPoints, resources for them, study guides, anything that might be on there. Mike and I are both constantly contributing to the website to support the students in the ways that we know will best support them.
And as like bring your own device has been implemented this year, I think we balance each other out nicely too, knowing different tools that are available technology-wise and being able to like bring those together as well.
I would say Mike definitely.
So we balance each other out.
Yeah, you say balance.
Yeah.
Balance, I'm not so sure. But so Mike's technology and what he knows about technology, how he helps with technology in the classroom is amazing, but I also learn from that and I can take it to the other 4 rooms, which is fantastic. Some other practices that we've implemented in that room for all students, voice to text, audiobooks, standing desks, soundproof headphones for quiet work. So things that you might see on an IEP as an accommodation for a particular student, we find all students taking advantage of.
I think that's like, the importance of inclusion and wanting to make things as accessible as possible. Like these different tools that that might appear on paper to be, for those students on IEPs, like actually benefit everyone, and to see those used in an inclusive environment, I think is really good, like across the board. So like I've like noticed students using voice to text and just has that's a great tool in itself, right? Regardless if you have a disability or not.
And the other thing you'll see, as you see us doing now, is that we explain things in different ways, and I think that's incredibly beneficial to any child. I might explain something, and while Mike's watching me explain, he might see a hole in my explanation that needs further explanation, and he'll jump in. And the children and even sometimes hearing a different voice. It's amazing. Like we'll start explaining something and then Mike will jump in and then I'll jump back in. And I think it really, A, keeps their attention, and B, makes sure that we're reaching as many students as possible. The other thing that's been really great is that Mike is working with other sixth graders that are in other classrooms in sixth grade, so they might be in the social studies or the science class, so he can bring cross-curricular connections into the room.
Yeah, and that's something that I wasn't expecting necessarily when I thought about what co-teaching would look like, but since I support sixth graders in the world geography and science, in the book that we did, this the Boy Harness the Wind, had a lot of connections to that, so being able to know like the key terms and just kind of tie cross-curriculum ideas together, I think has been beneficial for the students as well.
Just a few things that we want to say for moving forward. The class that we currently have is 25 students, 19 boys in the class. So I think that in the future we would think maybe just a little bit smaller, maybe 20 would be a better number. We'll show you a video. You can see we're kind of packed in there. But the kids are great. We've been able to manage it because there's 2 of us, but we think we would have even more impact with less students, more balance between girls and boys. We also think that maybe having adjacent classrooms, because Mike does have his own room because he's only in my class for 1 period a day, but if we had adjacent classrooms, I think it would be even better when we want to break into 2 groups and like work on, if someone feels like they need help in one area or another, it doesn't feel like kids being removed and being taken to a special education room. It's just, okay, we're going to just break into classrooms. And the classrooms do have adjoining doors. So we thought maybe that would be something for the future. And just in terms of planning time is very important. So as Cohasset moves forward and looks at other teachers co-teaching, we figure you need about 1.5 planning periods per week to plan effectively. So we have to have a shared planning period so that we can meet and talk about the lessons.
And I think too, just to stem off of that, the importance of like how this year, the first year is so important in building that relationship and learning, like my learning of the content, the 6th grade content, throughout the entire year, and then Donna's strategies. And we think that as we move forward, another year is going to just allow us more opportunities to improve upon like the quality of the lessons and just knowing each other and having that base relationship. So the importance of how it really takes a full year to get to know each other, and then from there you can do even better things.
So you don't want to get remarried next year?
No.
I think one marriage is enough for me right now. Yes, thank you.
So I would say like at least 3 years. Once a co-teaching relationship is set up, probably at least 3 years would be ideal because we're still learning each other's teaching styles and content. So I think at least next year will be even better because we'll know what we're about to teach and we'll be able to do even more.
As Mr. Tuffy can attest, we had a teacher who was co-teaching for 15 years maybe, and when she was changed classrooms, she retired. She said, I'm not doing this anymore. I need to be together with this teacher. We have such a bond that she's retiring, so am I. And it was that cohesive. You have a video.
Yeah,
it's a quick 1-minute video just to kind of give you the view, or to see what it's like. In the so the different styles are like the team teaching, the dual teach, like one leads, one supports. So we do a lot of group work and breaking things up to keep everyone engaged and active. So this is just a quick 1-minute video to gauge what the classroom looks like. So this was following a vocabulary lesson where they were using Quizlet, an online tool, to make flashcards.
Yeah. And there's really no front of the room when you're co-teaching.
Tracy, can you get one of the lights?
Yeah.
Please. Thank you. Thank you.
So Mike's probably clarifying and writing something on the board. Maybe while I'm working with a student, you can see they all have their computers open, what we were doing at that moment.
So it's definitely a very active environment, but having the 2 teachers there to support everyone is really
Almost
think
looks like
it's
everybody's
been
in a
great.
circle.
Yeah.
And you guys kind of roll
We
around
just
the
roll
alley.
Exactly.
through.
And I think
There's
that's-
nobody
yeah.
ever like really sitting. We're supporting. One's at the board, one's in the back, one's at, we just move around constantly.
And the setting is just very inclusive for everyone. And like, there's, the needs of everyone I think are being met right now. And it's like the best environment to have, students like a range of abilities can really be met in this type of model. So it's been very successful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
10 minutes was
Yep.
our target, so we worked to
I
that.
have one
Question. Yep.
Do kids in your other section say, well, where's Mr. Stapleton? Or isn't he with us?
No,
No.
they never ask. Yeah.
If they only knew.
Yeah, I think if they knew, right, what the,
Right.
um,
I get sometimes questions like, why are you only in that, like, why is your name
You
on
may
that
get it
door?
more, yeah.
And I think it's just pretty vague and saying, like, so, I have a class there and then I have some classes here too.
Okay.
But I think like with the push to make it, to like just more of like the norm,
Right.
I think that would just kind of eliminate that question.
There was some very positive comments today in the coffee too, that
Thank you.
there's no distinguishing between one teacher or another, so it's great. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
you're welcome. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
And Greg, you're up. I think I'll call him new. Our present school resource officer, Greg Taylor.
Present and future?
Present and future, our long-standing future school resource officer, Greg Taylor. He was great this morning, as I said. He's been making the tour. Thank you. We hope to have you back in the spring for an encore. He was at the coffee this morning. We also introduced you to, I think, several people, the leadership, et cetera, and this is another stop along the way of introductions. And so I thought he'd give us an update on how it feels to get his feet wet and his responsibilities. And before I go on, I want to thank the town for supporting. As I said this morning, I cannot imagine not having a school resource officer. I don't remember how we functioned before. So.
Okay, I'm Greg Taylor. I met some of you earlier today. Been with Cohesion for about 6 years. I live in town, grew up in town, went to school here. It was different. The school was different. Osgood was different, but
And this was the gym.
yeah. So there's a few things different, which is good because it doesn't feel like I'm working when I went to school. So that's good in a way. But I have 2 children: a 1-year-old boy, a 5-year-old girl. She'll be in kindergarten next year, so we're going through that process right now.
Registration.
Yeah, exactly.
Greg will be
It's
spending
been-
quite a bit of time as Osgood.
Yes. It's been about 2 weeks. It feels like it's been about 2 years, but that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Just meeting people and it's kind of, I'm just finally starting to settle in and starting to meet the students, and I can't say I've had a bad meeting yet. I mean, every kid's been great. The kids here are terrific. And one of the things I said earlier is I chose to take this position. I get asked that a lot because I think that's a concern. If you're kind of forced into it, you might not be 100% into the position. So I chose to take it. So I'm looking forward to it. And excited
You
to
also
be
know
here.
some of the students from coaching, correct?
Yes, most of them are in their early 20s now, which I can't believe. I'll be doing a barroom detail and I'll say, what are you doing here? No, coach, we're 22 now. I'm like, But, some names I remember because they'll have younger brothers or younger sisters. Cohesion Situate Legion team, anyone familiar?
Yeah.
I coached that for about five years.
So you're Julie and Doonan and
Oh yeah, the Doonan
Jeff
brothers.
Cavanaugh and.
Oh yeah, all those good guys. Good kids. I
They're
like guys
26.
now.
Don't want you to feel old. They're 26.
Thank you for, I was trying to make myself feel a little bit better, but they're 26 now, so it's crazy. But,
So I didn't know if you had any questions, but I did want to make a formal introduction, so.
Well, thanks for coming back out again. Oh, well, you were probably out already.
Yeah, I was working, but
Yeah.
I'll take the credit, thank you.
Okay, all right.
I did, I was here this morning and I had a sidebar with Greg and offered to meet with, have the security subcommittee meet with him, just to review, the binder, where we were, where we are now, and just, touch base on some of those issues, the topics in our security assessment.
This is actually a good time because we do have the abutment document for Osgood moving ahead on Old Pasture Road, so this is a good time to kind of get an update on security. So the
Okay.
binders,
Ever growing.
Yeah, you should still have it from Mike Loeb. It went from Mike Loeb's to Jay.
Okay, I'll reach out.
It might be in the office.
Okay. I'll reach out to Jay, see.
Okay. If not, we can duplicate it. It's easy.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He might have retired. He might.
So how much time do you spend in the schools?
It depends. It's crazy. It's not crazy, but I'll set I'll plan my day in the beginning, and it'll be noontime, and I haven't done one of those things, because you just, sometimes you're brought here, you're brought there, something might come up, but I try and hit every school, at least once a day, if not every other day. I've set up meetings with the high school principal and the Osgood principal on Monday mornings, just to kind of go over anything that happened through the week, anything that I should report to them, they can report to me. And then the Deer Hill principal, we just keep missing each other. But we will catch up. By the end of this week, that's my goal. That's my mission. But I just try and touch base, just make my face known and reach out to the principals if any concerns or anything like that.
And how's your interaction been in this building with the students?
Great. Yeah, great.
Is it still true when Mike Lopes first started in the position when it was brand new, he had an office, a specific office? Does that still exist in the middle high school?
Yes.
And I guess part of, at least when I heard Mike describe it, it was having him physically in that office gave students kind of a sense of presence. Does that still happen, or are you just meeting in the offices, the administrative offices? Or are you going to be utilizing that space?
Yeah, I spend most of my time in that office.
Okay.
When I do meet with the principal and assistant principal, it's at the administrative office.
Okay.
But I spend most of my time in the office.
Okay, so you are physically located
Yes.
here when you're not being called in 1,000 different directions.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to clarify, was that you do have a home base, and the home base is in the schools. That doesn't mean you'll probably be anywhere but
Right.
you're...
If I'm in an office somewhere, it's that one.
Okay,
If I'm inside,
gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question.
Okay.
When
Who
Jay,
would you ask?
thank you. When Jay was here last, he talked about, and we could be through the process or not, but he was working on independent study with a couple of students on certain projects.
Mhm.
I don't know if maybe Carolyn can address, do you know if they're through that, or is Greg going to pick up on it, or?
So there was only one student that was approved to do that this year. Some of the things that were proffered as possibilities had not been approved when they were shared, to be perfectly frank.
Okay.
So we circled back, and the student in question actually did develop several really powerful PowerPoints for drug and alcohol abuse for use across younger grades. And because we were in transition, that student submitted those to me for some feedback and for further use. So we have them, and we can share them with Greg and see if they'd be useful for him working with classes. But that's how he was assessed and given the credits and such. But it was, they were a bit in transition, and he was. And Jay did report before he left that the student was absolutely helpful and responsive whenever Jay asked him to do something. Mm-hmm. And the student's feedback was that he had found it to be very meaningful. He's interested in police work. And they were able to do some activities together outside of the building that he found to be eye-opening. Okay. So it definitely turned out to be a positive experience. But Greg isn't inheriting anybody that he has to manage, so that's a good thing too.
Okay. Gotcha. So if it
And we've
comes up
already,
before
we've already
then-
talked to Greg about what that process is for the future, how kids apply and interview and things like that.
Right.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. You get to go home and put the children to bed.
I've been in some sticky situations, but you guys are intimidating.
It's that
No, not you guys
school
decided this chair.
we're just warming up for.
They're really nice people, I promise.
I'm just kidding. Nice meeting you all.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks, Greg. Good night, ladies.
Good night. The next is a happy present. We have a gift from the Cohasset Parent Schools Association, PSO, given $4,668.70 for grants to the Joseph Osgood School. You have that wide array of donations to the music person. I want to see Boom Whacker Octavator check ×2. I want to know what that is. Stephanie DeLeo, Yulo, and Barberi, and Druzik, the library, the phys ed, secretary. Those are actually Judy's is play and chalk for the schoolyard, which she does every year. The math specialist, the STARS program, the arts. So it's a wide array of various supplementary additions to their curriculum. We're very thankful, but I do need a vote to accept $4,668.70 for the Joseph Osgood School from the Osgood School Parent School Organization.
And we have actually 3 that are attached
Yeah.
within the
Sorry, I
package.
just saw one.
I know, I started flipping through it and I thought,
I take that back. We have a second one
I
for.
think there's also something at the back of my packet that isn't related. It got stapled,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, in error.
There's 3 from the PSO, and then there's the one
Right.
sports.
They are
one.
to do different schools. You have one for middle high school for a grand
Yes.
total of $4,906.25. For Ms. McGinnis for Walden Pond Escapade. For Dawn Amelia, transportation to the movie Wonder, which the 6th grade saw and very excited about. Carolyn Connolly doing Let It Shine performance, and that's coming up very shortly. And Ms. Ryan and Westlinger all around earthworm outline maps, and Carrie Sandler on the standing desks, which Donna and Michael alluded to in their classroom for alternate seating.
At some point, I'd love to understand where we stand with standing desk and other furniture, because we got the very generous gift from the CEF, and they've repeatedly donated in that area, particularly to Deer Hill, but I think in this past gift they also donated to middle school. So I'm just trying to get a sense, when we survey our classrooms, are we feeling like that's completed or we've got more work?
Yes, it's quite comprehensive at this point. The CEF grant completed grade 4, and that there were
Okay.
doodle desks in all the classrooms. This is part of a 2-part request from Carrie Sandler. Part of the funding for grade 6 came from CEF.
Yep.
This is the second half,
Gotcha.
and that completes the 6th grade. The high school has 2 or 3 classrooms that have stand-up desks. Grade 5 has alternative seating. Grade 3, it is still going to be coming in, but at this point, I think the district budget may be assuming some of those.
Okay.
Any other questions before we vote?
Oh, and there's
The Deer Hill.
Deer Hill.
Yeah, there's a Deer Hill one also.
And there is a Deer Hill one for $3,236.
261020.
26, before that?
Yes, before the one, before that.
Wish they would staple these things, I can't find them.
I know, I started flipping through as I was reading it and I thought, oh, okay.
Okay, that is the first of $4,668.70. Then we have Ms. Mosier, O'Hara, and Corcoran for math resources and manipulatives, and Dr. DiChiara for microphones in the gymnasium sound system for $2,610.20. And we have a fourth.
I think that's separate.
I think it's
That's a
separate.
separate one from the PSO.
Yeah.
So we should just vote on the 3 for
Right.
PSO, which I did my math right. Carried those numbers, $12,185.15.
20 cents. Oh, maybe I rounded.
I I think we could just do them separately,
Okay.
okay? So do I have a motion to accept the PSO's generous gift to the Joseph Osgood School in the amount of $4,668.70?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call, please.
I, Katie Dugan.
I, Gina Stino.
I, Ellen Mar.
I, Jen Madden.
Okay. And then do I have a motion to accept the PSO grant for the Deer Hill School in the amount of $2,610.20?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call, please.
I, Katie Dugan.
I, Gina Stino.
I, Ellen Mar.
I, Jen Madden.
And the last in this group from the PSO is the gift in the amount of $4,906.25 for grants to the middle high school. Do I have a motion to accept that grant?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I, Katie Dugan.
I, Gina Stino.
I, Ellen Mar.
I, Jen Madden.
Very good.
Thank you. And we have another separate from, for the portion of the Hall Public School from the Hall Business School Administration, and for the Hall's portion of the coach's stipend for $3,236
Is
from the
this,
town of Hull.
oh, okay, so is this track?
No, cross country.
Cross country.
All cross country.
Oh, okay, all right, great. Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the gift for the fiscal year 18 coaches stipend in the amount of $3,236?
Before we move it,
Yep,
it's not really a gift.
It's not
It's
really
an
a gift, it's a
obligation
payment.
for a
Right.
shared position.
I'm sorry, thank you.
yeah,
It's a shared position, contribution, Hall's contribution to the coach's stipend.
Right.
okay.
This is the first time we've
I
ever.
was just
we've
going to
never
say
seen
that we've
these
never done
before.
this before. So it was kind of funny to me that it was attached with the gifts. I thought it was just a mistake, like an invoice. But,
From our point of view, that's all it is. They're paying their bill.
so we don't have to
You
accept
don't have to
this.
vote on it, but
It's
really
really
you
not a
acknowledge
gift.
that you've received the payment if you like.
Okay, that's just
Okay.
acknowledgement.
Okay,
But nonetheless,
It's revenue in, so.
Right.
it's revenue, and
yeah.
we go through the athletic revolving fund, but I think it's nice to know that when we have these shared teams, that
Just do
there's.
a ride.
that there's an-
Absolutely.
There's an advantage, there's a reason, one of
It's
the
a very
reasons we're
good
doing
thing.
it is it allows us to do
Okay.
some sports that we could not otherwise field by ourselves because of numbers and also because of expenses. We're
Okay.
sharing the expenses as well.
so I would like to publicly acknowledge that we've received this, but we don't.
Superintendent Devine, I will tell him tomorrow that we're very thankful.
Yes, thank you.
We've seen reference to these in the seasonal sports reports where we've
Right.
had co-op on hockey, for instance, and Ron would footnote, where there was a shared expense or a revenue generator from the other school.
And speaking of that, in the year-long agenda, there's a notation that at this meeting we would get the winter, fall sports update, and we don't have it, so I'm wondering if it will be at the next meeting, please?
I will make a point.
Great, because that season was over at Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and it's January. So, thank you.
We have, the next item on the agenda is a vote for an increase in fees for FY '19.
Right.
When we reviewed the fees, we found they were most comparable. We operate in somewhat of, it's not self-sustaining for the kindergarten, is really what it is. In the past, it's been supported by grants. We've lost that, and so at this point, we see the need to be more comparable with the surrounding districts. And we ask for an increase from $3,200 per year to $3,500 going forward.
And so just to kind of round that out, I think we discussed this in budget and finance back in December. John, on the second page, is really the context that you might be looking for in terms of the status of that kindergarten revolving account, and we have had a balance in this account, a substantial balance in this account. There were two things that have happened. One is the grants that have gone away that Louise alluded to, but also we took a decision back in January of 2016 to increase the number of ESPs that we had so that we were supporting more on a one-to-one basis in terms of one ESP per one classroom. And Jen, you remember this conversation distinctly because you had a kindergartner at the time, and the class sizes were large that year in terms of kindergarten, and we had ESPs that were being split between classrooms. And I think particularly in kindergartens, what we've gotten feedback from the teachers and frankly from the parents, it's just a lot of buttons and boots and
Kleenex.
Yes, exactly. So having the extra set of hands really helps kindergarten function. So we increased the number of ESPs. I think at the time it was by 1.5, and we have had the kindergarten grants go away. So as a result, we always knew we were going to be facing a day when we were going to be whittling away that surplus, but we've now reached a point where we need to proactively address it going forward into FY19 so we don't dip further into a deficit position. We'll end the year with a balance, but we won't necessarily end FY19 with a balance without taking some measures, and this will be one of them. It won't cover the whole gap.
Any
I
other
didn't
discussion?
have a kindergartner.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I might have been
Maybe it was
at
Amanda.
those meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at the same time.
Um,
Okay.
And I am in full agreement that kindergarten classrooms need ESPs, one per classroom.
Right. Any other comments?
I'm curious, are the grants, are they federal or state that we've lost?
State.
The
It's
kindergarten
a
one
state
was
grant, the kindergarten grant was a state grant.
And this is the second year that we haven't had that grant, and and it's not coming back,
It's not
so
coming
there
back.
it won't resurface out of the ashes in FY19.
Right.
It was a state grant program that had run for quite a number of years. It was threatened to be cut several times, and then finally it was cut 2 years ago, we had a continuation grant, which meant we went from year to year and continued to pay for ESPs is what we used it for. They didn't pick on us, they eliminated the grant period statewide.
Okay, so we need to vote on this. So do I have a motion to accept the increase in kindergarten fees for the fiscal year 18-19 school year to $3,500?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call, please.
I, Katie Dugan.
I, Gina Stino.
I, Ellen Mar.
Hi, Jim Madden.
Thank you.
That information will be shared tomorrow, and Friday is the registration for kindergarten.
Great.
And then we hope that we can accept everyone. That about everything.
Was there ever an article in the Mariner about K registration?
I'll have to ask. I
Was
think that was mentioned.
I think it was mentioned in like a, I don't think we wrote something about it. I
don't
think
think
it was,
something
it
about
came
it.
through in like a press release.
It's kind of like a round town kind of thing. Okay.
I can try and circulate that if you want.
It was
On our
tweeted
page.
out, it was on the website.
Okay.
There were 30 parents at the meeting the other morning, which was 20 new parents, actually.
Oh, wow.
Word is getting out. We have 15 moving from preschool. So word is out.
Okay.
And I did include it in the newsletter notes this morning.
I saw that. Thank
So,
you.
trying to get it out. And I think it was tweeted out again last week or something. So it's been going out.
Okay. I live in my own little world.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is school committee and review updated school budget FAQs. So thanks for putting this together.
Yep.
And I mean, what we have here is a compilation of previous information that's been updated for the current budget cycle. So it basically covers how much is in the FY18 school budget, what the year-over-year increase is, the total requested school budget for last year, what the town manager recommended, you know, and how it aligned with what we requested. It just kind of outlines for people what the budget process is, where the monies come from, policies that govern the development of the town budget, how it's allocated, how we're impacted by Proposition 2.5, which is important for people to understand because we can never receive more than 2.5% of the tax levy in the town. So there is a ceiling on increasing property tax revenues, and because of the demographics in our town, that's where all the money comes from to run the town. So it's kind of difficult to understand why we can't get more, but that's the law, which is the basic overview of what happens with that. And then it also speaks to the fact that our school budget is very transparent. It's always posted on our website. After we have, through the discussion process on the budget, when we have discussions in meetings, almost the next day we publicize the next version on our website so that people have time to look at it, digest it, ask any questions that they might think they have. And then we go to the next meeting and we do it all over again. So then it also speaks to the fact that we go through many different stages in town. We've been meeting with Long Range Planning Group, which meets monthly, so that we can kind of get a handle on the 5-year forecast for the entire town. And we're actually looking to expand that to 10, right? People want to expand it to a 10-year plan.
Oh.
But
Okay.
anyway, so it
Sure
goes.
what you're going to know about.
Yeah, it goes. So it goes through a variety of vetting processes. It goes before advisory. It goes before we talk to capital budget. We go to the Board of Selectmen, and we present our budget to all of those groups and have a back and forth with those committees and boards. Let's see. Is there anything else? We also have the Cohesion 5-year forecast attached. It's a little muddy, but
Actually, today I got a cleaner copy, so when I send
I
you
think
the
it was
copy,
sent. Did you send it?
I sent the Excel version, but I
Okay.
was able to create a PDF and pull in a better one. When I did this last week, I just did a screenshot, and that's why it was so blurry. But so before we post it, I'll send you a clean copy.
Okay, and in 2012, the town adopted financial management policies, which are also included at the back of this document. It has our school committee budget message for fiscal year 2019. Did I miss anything?
The last page is just
Oh,
the calendar.
right, the proposed budget calendar for 2019, which outlines what happens and what month it happens in.
And I can probably scratch propose because it is the budget calendar.
Yeah.
So I'll make that one edit.
Although it is still proposed because we could shift a day or two. Not that we're planning that. The bottom line is that on March 13th, we will have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and Advisory Committee. And then on March 14th, we will have a school committee public hearing on the budget where we'll discuss all of the various components of the budget and where the numbers lie. And then we have a week in between to kind of digest and adjust. And so on March 21st, we actually vote on the budget. And then it's voted by the town at town meeting in April.
And I know, at least there's a lot of community confusion that when the school committee votes, it is the budget. We actually vote a recommendation, and
Right.
then town meeting is the actual legislature that passes it. So ours is just the recommended budget, which then ultimately is not approved until annual town meeting, which is April 30th. So, yeah.
No, I had on the second page.
Yep.
Katie, I think it's probably just a typo.
Yep.
On the appropriations from capital budget.
Yeah.
44,130 34, I came up with 244, 125 when I looked at the warrant.
Where is it, because I don't have my glasses, I'm
44,
sorry.
145.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's page 2 at the top.
Oh, okay.
Other sources of funding?
Yeah.
I think you might have just missed a digit.
I did. I remember
Yeah.
too when I remember running down to the basement, pulling the
Pulling the warrant,
warrant
yeah.
and doing some additions. So I'll double check it again, but the 244 sounds right.
Yeah,
From memory.
240
Thanks for
yeah,
catching that.
244, 125, and because the 1,247,764 is correct.
Yep.
And I think the other call out on this document, which is great, and never before the last couple of years have we been able to provide parents and the community such a detailed level of information.
Right.
It really covers 2 budget cycles. The beginning covers the year we're in, and then our budget message and the calendar cover the next year.
Right.
So it's important people don't get confused about, are we voting on the FY18 budget now?
Right.
And we're not.
No, we're not. We're using those monies.
Right.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I will, I'll make those couple cleanups and I'll send a fresh PDF around to the committee and one to you, Louise, and Jennifer so that we can post it. We've traditionally posted it up in the budget section. And Jen, as you do your travels to Osgood School Committee, I know that
Our school council's
The school
been
council.
canceled because of the storm that was scheduled for last Thursday.
Yeah.
So it seems like we haven't met.
in a long time.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I know that when I was on some of the school councils, just bringing this memo with me, just handing it to people, because those
Sure.
are the more interested parties. Sometimes I bring it to PSO, like the Deer Hill PSO meeting, so
Sure.
I generally just ask Jennifer to run some copies for me at the school, and then I bring them. Because I do think people appreciate it, because
Yeah.
those are the interested
Okay.
parents.
I have a question since I'm new to this process. The meeting on March 13th, is that the whole committee? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Power in numbers.
yeah.
Typically, it'll be Louise and John and maybe one other person from the school committee that might present it, but
But we all.
show
We all-
up.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay. So the next item on the agenda is school committee goal review progress report. And it was brought up in another meeting and we decided that we would push it forward on another agenda, so we included it on this one. Are we ready to talk about, or do we want to wait until we have do we have the stoplight? I see you've got the little.
I thought that when I had kind of pinged this week, I thought the goal might be for us to talk about where we are quickly, and then based on that, come to a consensus. So Jen, in the past, we've kind of traffic lighted ourselves, red, yellow, green. So maybe tonight we can all just kind of quickly see if we're on the same page around how are we doing relative to our goals. This generally spurs a conversation around things that we should kick up the level of intensity around, or things that maybe we're actually well underway with. So that was, I thought we could actually publish a traffic light after tonight's conversation, come to memorializing where we are in January.
Okay.
So when we look at each other in May.
All right.
what we kind of base-
I just have a very brief update on the school committee section of the website.
Yeah.
Barbara and I were going to meet last week, and then Bombageddon, or whatever they're calling it, happened. So we do have a tentative meeting scheduled for Friday. So we'll talk about that a little bit more and kind of put that one to rest.
So, I mean, do we want to just go down in order?
Sure.
Because when we did review these and approve them, we kind of assigned some of them so the first one on the middle school plan, I mean, I don't think we're anywhere. We have the report now and we're waiting for the recommendations to come, so there's no action for us to take on that part. Literacy study, again, we're waiting for recommendations as part of the budget process. The DCAP and Tier 3 interventions, I personally don't know where we are on that.
We've had one conversation at school committee
Right.
around it. We had follow-up. So I had kind of graded the second 2 bullet points yellow to say that they were in process.
Right, 'cause we had the presentation on literacy as a.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
we had the presentation on DCAP.
Yeah.
It's on my to-do list to get Barb, Pat, Louise, and myself together to kind of figure out
Right.
what do we want to come back to the full committee on to kind of close out that conversation.
Yep.
And then on the middle school plan, I actually give us a green. Maybe I'm getting overly optimistic, but I felt like, not that, the school committee did meet with Nelms. We have a report that's ready. I guess, we could grade ourselves yellow because we haven't taken any action yet budgetarily, which is really what we were talking about in the goal.
Right, 'cause we don't know the recommendations yet.
Right.
So, yeah.
So yellow's probably more apt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Human capital.
Yep. On business manager, we had the posting over the summer.
Mhm.
We had interviewed some candidates, none of which panned out. We had made the decision to hold off until kind of quote unquote the season
Right.
for this position or candidates might. I know, Louise, you have plans to repost this.
It was
month.
posted today.
Okay.
Excellent.
That was refined today. It is Director of Finance and Operations.
Yep.
The description was refined a bit. It is being posted. It has been posted on our website for at least a month.
Yeah.
We do have one possibility already that had come in earlier. I've reached out to that person and asked if there's still interest, and I will let you know if there is.
Okay.
My plan is that we interview as they come in for viable candidates.
Okay.
Yeah, we were never able to, in the past, build a quote-unquote pool, so I think interview as you go makes sense. And it also allows us to kind of have a real-time sense of where we are with this position in recruiting. And I guess I've said this before, I think that'll give us a sense as we get into February, if we're not seeing traction, what else we want to do. I don't think we want to let this sit for too long.
We had several candidates in the last pool, and because we tried to pool, we lost 2 of them.
Well, so hiring as they come in makes much, interviewing as they come in makes much more sense.
Yep.
Okay. And then negotiate contracts with 4 school district bargaining units and leadership team by June 2018. Those negotiations are underway. We're in the midst of teacher negotiations with the CTA, and also we have been having conversation with the custodial union. So that's all good. And then some of the others come after the teachers. So
Right.
it's kind of a dance that we have to coordinate.
I had put us as yellow as well underway on this.
Yeah. Okay.
Communication and collaboration, I think we had our 4th educator spotlight tonight. And it was awesome, and it's becoming my favorite part of the meetings.
They are great.
Yep. The next one, we engaged the district leadership team in ongoing dialogue at school committee regarding college outcomes and post-secondary plans. We talked about this in October, and we were to send Louise our questions and thoughts about this topic so that it could be shaped. And I know Katie circulated her questions to the group. I sent you mine separately. And I guess we're kind of waiting on your thoughts on maybe when we can have that conversation.
I thought Carolyn had that conversation with you at an earlier meeting. I'll have to go back.
Not
No.
really.
I will look into that.
And I'm sure I could dig up my email if you need.
I have.
Okay.
So the next one, collaborate district leadership team to showcase professional development and curricular initiatives around SEL, UDL, and diversity. I think you're doing a fabulous job. You got great kudos this morning at the superintendent's coffee for your newsletter on PD, and you had sent out an email about the security. So I think it's awesome that that kind of information's going out.
Yeah. And many tweets.
Many tweets.
So
Many
they're very
tweets,
much
yeah.
up for it.
I didn't get notification about the coffee today, because of course I would have been there, but I didn't get it, and so it wasn't on the calendar.
Correct. Can you tell us who you are? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Maura Sherry, I have a 6th grader
Okay.
at middle school, and I didn't get it, so I don't know if I got bumped out or if my, I'm not the only, there are a couple of people said, no, I didn't know about it at all.
Was there a Blackboard Connect?
There was a
about it?
Blackboard Connect in December, and it was tweeted out in December, I believe. And it
Oh,
was
so it was, nothing
It was
new
before.
came out
No, I
about
don't
it.
think anything new came out. So it was.
So that's how we missed, because I've talked to a couple of people who said they had no idea it happened.
It was sent out earlier when the calendar came out, November, December, and then it came out a second time in the Blackboard, but it was not on the calendar.
The superintendent copies are never on the PSO calendar. They're much more organic in terms of when they get scheduled throughout the.
I thought that's what we were talking about. As I was talking to people, I usually come to them because I usually find out about them. This one snuck under my radar.
I think it was December that it snuck under because there were several communications about it, but I think the last ones were in December.
Yeah, too much has happened since
I'm
December
sorry.
for me to keep up. I'm whirlwind of things because I definitely would have attended.
Well,
I look
next time.
When is the next time?
Don't have on schedule.
Okay.
We're going to get through budget season and see. So April.
Well, one of my questions, if I'm allowed to ask a question, was
Sure.
how does one get something before the school committee? How does someone get something to be brought up as a discussion? I know you've discussed it, but to bring it up actually before the school committee.
So you have an issue that you want to discuss?
Yes, and I wanted, starting school later, I know we've all discussed it, but I wondered when it would become something that would be more formalized and accountable to people who are interested in it.
Okay, I would suggest that you contact the superintendent's office. That was part of the subject of the coffee this morning also. I know you didn't
Would have loved to
catch
have
it.
had my, yes.
Yeah, but I actually was thinking, I'm going to talk with the superintendent about maybe making some kind of a public statement about where we stand on that.
The only thing that made me uncomfortable was two things. The data is in, and I provided the data, so it's in. Can't question CDC and American Associate Psychologists and Pediatrics. The data is in. The validity is checked through. But also that it's now being postponed to say it can't be, like that's what, to say something can't be done until not next year, but the year after. To already say we can't do it before we try to do it. So that was the only thing that I really, to say, I want to look through all these things, and I won't be able to just already say.
Okay, it's really not a school committee meeting subject. Okay?
That's what I came to find out.
Yeah.
How can I make it become one?
I think that you should call the superintendent's office and maybe make an appointment to have a conversation.
And we've done that before.
Okay.
So I wondered how, other than speaking with the superintendent, to get involved with the school committee also. And
It's an operational issue that impacts the district, and it really isn't a school committee item, at this point anyway.
okay, 'cause
Okay.
that's how other.
There are financial implications, there's timing, it's a complex,
Oh,
conversation.
without a doubt.
and that's why it doesn't just happen. You know, we can't just snap our fingers and make it happen.
So I guess two things.
Right.
One is
Right. I'll mention.
if you ever want to use public comment, you absolutely can use public comment. You can talk to Jean as chair about whether the agenda item is actually appropriate for the school committee. And what you're hearing from us is that we have very specific duties, and some of what you're talking about in terms of start times cross deeply into operational issues. And it's not that we're not aware of what's going on operationally, it's just that it is not our purview to delve into some of those operational issues. And again, I am sorry that you missed this morning, because there was a presentation that I think was very well received by the parents. It really laid out in a way that explained both the complexity but the willingness to move forward on the project. So I guess, and again, I'm cognizant of the fact that that folks want to understand more of this. So what I took away from this was a little bit around communication, and I think that's what you suggested, Jean, in terms of how do we communicate more about where we are and be transparent about where we are. I think is important.
Can I ask if you did receive the Blackboard Connect today?
I did. I was driving, and because a lot of people know this is something I'm
Right,
near
and I
and dear
did
to
look
my
for
heart.
you today because I know it's passionate. But
Yes.
there is information on the procedure that needs to take place that was discussed today. But I think it's a conversation between the two of us on the presentation that was given today and the work that's been done, and why it's taking its time. So that it is going to be a long process. It's going to affect the budget if we do indeed find a reasonable solution to this. So I think it's a conversation that we need to have.
I'd love to, and I didn't mean to disrupt.
No,
I
it's
just
okay.
was
No,
wondering
it's okay.
how one brings something, because it's something I don't understand. My daughter's in the school system, and this is, I just wondered how one goes about having that happen.
So generally, the best way is we're here to talk with people, not necessarily in this public meeting, but I mean, if you want to reach out to the chair, you want to reach out to any of us individually, we can have a conversation. But I think honestly, since you missed this morning, reach Louise and understand where she's at, and then circle back.
She's put a lot of effort into looking into the research and how it would impact the district. So, and she presented that this morning. So it would be great if you could reach out to her.
And that's not a tape or anything, or that's not.
No.
No.
The procedure is in the notes. I would gladly go over the presentation with you.
I'd love that, Louise,
Yeah,
because I got a call. I'm driving in the car and said, "Did you hear?" And I'm like, "How did I not know?"
And as I said a year ago, that it wasn't going to sit in a drawer, that we were looking at it, that it's much more than the newspaper has ever printed, and we commented that today. There were 7 options that we looked at today, and the major obstacle is obviously transportation and dismissal time. So we needed to look at that, and that's what we talked about this morning. The consensus of the group, if I sensed it correctly, I know that some of us were there, was that it is a lengthy process, and that I did speak at length with Duxbury, former superintendent, and other areas that it's lengthy. It's not something that we can implement very quickly, or we will find ourselves in a mess of dissension. So, but it's a conversation we should have.
I regretted meeting, and so actually I spoke with the PSO, and they said, "Show up tonight."
There we are.
And as Katie said, we have invitation to speak at the beginning, which is public comment. So that section of time is for people who want to bring things forward that are not on the agenda, not to discuss in the meeting necessarily, but to bring them top of mind for us, so that if it is something that's in our purview, we can include it in a future agenda, or if it's not, we can refer you to the proper person
Thank you.
or
But I've
department.
never turned anyone away for a conversation. So.
Okay.
No, I know, and we've had many. I missed today, and
That's fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, so we're still on goals,
So,
sorry.
yeah. So Jean, you just commented on the
The
website
website, yep.
update. You're working with
Yes.
Barb next week.
Yes.
Finance,
I feel like on the first one we're red, but we have until May. We haven't even started that conversation, which is the replacement schedule for key capital assets. evaluate financial implications for district-wide transportation options. I gave us a yellow. We are making some specific recommendations relative to expanding the number of routes that we have at middle high school next year, which has implications in terms of capital budget requests. We're now requesting 8, not 7 lease buses. Build a facilities improvement schedule in collaboration with the town manager and facilities department. I'd give us a yellow. It's in process. Ellen, I could see that you might not grade us as generally, but I think I personally feel like we have got a lot more visibility collectively around what are we facing this year in terms of what we want to do and in the future years. I do feel good that our list is now much more scrubbed around facilities requests for FY19 and going forward. It's not a perfect roadmap, but at least we've got a roadmap instead of just kicking forward old requests.
Right. I would say that there's a shade of yellow in there. Perhaps marigold.
The hue.
A hue.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it's a tough one, and I think it's, I think we need to keep it. I think it's something that the town is looking to do as well, is to really have a comprehensive, both for the first bullet point for replacement schedules and the second one for facility improvement schedules, to look at all of the town-owned facilities and say, okay, roof, for high school this year, Osgood next year, town hall that, I think they'd like to get to that, and I think part of the capital budget process that we're working with now is trying to get to that process, and I think, it's hard to find a minute in the day with the people that are knowledgeable to go beyond the immediate needs. We're talking about the boiler this year, but boiler, HVAC, electrical systems, upgrades, the whole thing. And I think it's worthy of keeping here and keeping not a full court press on, but keeping it top of mind.
And it sort of goes hand in hand with the first bullet point. When Ron responded back to my specific question around whether two of the requests were a duplicate, he said, well, there is a request in for device replacement for employees, but stay tuned whether that remains a capital budget item or becomes a operating budget item, which just kind of goes to me, we need to have a better handle on this of our own. If capital is no longer going to be addressing some of these lower level needs like employee laptops, which again, as an individual item, don't hit the threshold as a capital budget item, but in aggregate do. It goes to, there seems to be some pushback that not every item that's IT related has to go through capital anymore, whereas 3 or 4 years ago, it was very much, if it smells like IT, it's a capital item, it has to go to capital budget, and now I'm seeing the lines wavering a little bit, which just means that if that's going to be where the future heads with this, I don't know if it is or not, but I think if it is, then we need to understand what the implications are, because finding that money out of the operating budget is going to be challenged. It's going to be challenged.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and we need to be able to articulate that.
Yeah.
Because I saw that, I'm like, I can't even begin to address this at 4:30 in the afternoon. But I'm like, where are we going to find $25,000 to come up with laptop replacements?
Right.
So it just goes to show that the school's having a better understanding of some of our asset needs is important. Participate in the budget process, capital advisory and otherwise. Definitely yellow, trending towards green. If we're not knee deep, we'll soon be neck deep.
Well, 65 days from now.
Exactly. we can code it. We can code it green, hopefully.
Well, capital budget is starting their process of scheduling meetings, and we're in that queue exactly. Haven't heard yet from advisory or board of selectmen and town manager. So,
well, advisory and board of selectmen is scheduled for the 13th.
March
Right,
13th.
right.
But on this topic, John, I kind of whispered to Katie earlier, I think on our master schedule for the year, we have our next January meeting, first pass of the budget to the committee, and I'm wondering if maybe we could have a subcommittee meeting to kind of see where we are. I don't want this to sound, I'm going to say masochistic, but I kind of want to know what the pain is.
He's trying not to laugh out loud.
Exactly. He's like, oh, you could just come sit in my office.
No, but
Sure.
so because I think to sell it, I have to know from where you came, and I feel honestly like last year we've done a perfect budget. It was done. It was, and I didn't feel the pain, and I think.
She thinks there's going to be some this year.
Well, no, but I found it for whatever the reasons were in the prior cycle, being so ingrained in it, I had a much stronger, comprehensive understanding of where we started, what were the hard decisions, you know, and how did we get to where we were. So I felt fully 1,000% vested in the process to be able to support the leadership team and what they were asking for. So I don't know when Jean and Louise, you want to put it on the agenda for the committee, but prior to that, I'd like to have a...
I think so. I think we have a little bit more work to do on our end before we do that, but we'll look into that.
Before a subcommittee meeting or before a full presentation?
Both.
Okay.
Okay.
We need to feel a little pain first, so we can pass.
Well, I'm
on.
willing to share it,
Yeah,
just so you know. Safety and security, I think there's been a great improvement in signage and in traffic flow here in particular. In the administrative parking lot, I think the roads were painted would slow down as the kids zip up to the circle. I think so. I think that part is done. The next one, I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
I actually oddly had graded us much harder on this one. In that I agree on the signage, like it's greatly improved. And the lane marking. I remember, at least when we were setting this goal, that we had talked a lot about Sawyer Street and what we're going to do around left-hand turns, and was there ability...
Pond Street.
Oh, excuse me, Pond Street.
Right.
Was there ability longer term to think about bumping the sidewalk over and stealing space so that we...
For turn lane.
For turn lane.
Green space.
And so
Right.
I feel like that
Right.
conversation, which is obviously not a FY19, we can do it right now, but a longer term conversation around how do we fix traffic flow, because it goes back to this bigger conversation around, you know, if you change things at Deer Hill, Osgood, Sawyer Street becomes that mess that now Pond Street is.
Well, in addition to
Pond Street. So I don't know, I agree that the on premises is flowing a lot better, I just don't know if Pond Street is flowing any better.
You're right, we did talk about, but I think a comprehensive traffic study is a big
Undertaking.
I think it's a big undertaking. But
It's been handed back to the town, in that we had a discussion with Bill Quigley, with Chris Senior, particularly when the trees were cut. There's a hill, and cutting in to either side of that either cuts into a hill, which is almost impossible, but it also interrupts a student sidewalk, and that can't be disturbed on either side. That's a big issue. It would be and so it was handed over as far as that's concerned. There is a 15-mile-an-hour sign out there. There are people outside that we've done the most we can. We recently had a discussion about looking at the safety of our walkways and handicap parking. It's a continuous conversation. I'm not sure that we'll get to a solution, other than it needs to be a traffic study.
Yeah.
The one-way here in the circle, I noticed, has really facilitated the traffic coming in and out.
Yeah.
The parking's been easier. I'm not sure what the next step would be
Okay.
on my side.
Okay, that's fair if we think that this is kind of that portion of it, of the bigger fix to Pond Street is
Is it big?
a big, and it's back with the town and back with CPD.
I think it is at this point.
What about the left turn coming out of the student parking lot, and so that they don't get bottlenecked with pickups, parents in line for pickup out on Pond Street, making that a left turn only for students exiting? Did you?
We talked about that as well with
Yeah.
Jay, and I'm going to have to go back to my notes. Taking a left-hand turn just means a circle around for students, and we feel that they would not obey that. There's no traffic citation or anything else.
Okay.
It's like the
Can't
Dunkin'
be
Donuts on
prevented.
3A where they
We can
say no
encourage-
left turn, but
Right.
you
Everybody
everybody
tries
tries
to
to.
turn.
everybody
We can
reflects.
encourage it, but not enforce it.
Yeah.
Not without a police detail, and that gets
Okay.
costly.
What needs to happen, and the police detail was something we also talked about students going around cars and into the other lane, and the detail would be astronomically expensive. And he doesn't have the manpower.
Right.
Every time I come here at 2 o'clock, or when I could leave at 2 o'clock, I think, oh, I did it to myself again.
Yeah.
We talked about parking lot dismissal at an earlier or later time. It's not a controllable issue.
Right.
I continue to have the conversation, however.
What about assigned student parking, and to do that, you have to pass a test around rules.
Parking citizenship?
Parking, well,
Is it a
honestly, at
digital
my high
citizenship?
school, you had to apply. It was a big deal to get a parking number, and there
There
were
was here.
rules.
Yeah,
There was
that
here,
used to
there was
be
a
here.
fee, and there
Yeah.
was an assigned space.
Came
But
with
it is a
privilege.
public parking area. Therefore, we were told we could not do that.
It wasn't a fee issue in my high school. It was a rite of passage. You better respect this, otherwise you lose spot 272.
Was that your real number?
No, I was a walker. I was always very jealous.
Oh.
The second, monitor the completion of safety and security initiatives approved by the town in FY17, collaboration with the business manager and facilities. There's just one that's outstanding, and that's the first responders access point from Old Pasture Road to Osgood, which is wrapped into the playground, which I think you have views on conservation.
We just received notice of, a butters notice, so that seems to be going forward a little bit, which means they're looking for permission to access Old Pasture Road. Okay, so it's going forward.
Okay.
I'm sure on Brian Joyce's checklist, that's probably step one of about 100 to
I think he may have also had the conservation assessment in that area, which was supposed to be part of that a few months ago. I think
Yeah.
that's done, and now this is the second step. I would think that might be completed by summer. Tomorrow, the letter's going out to the access board, sending that to them so that we can go ahead and look at the playground as well. So, moving ahead.
And then the last one, we just liaised.
Says semi-annually, so we had the first one.
Yeah, we had the first one, we had the second, so that's a green.
That's a good one.
Good. And just to check back, it's not on this list in specific, but we've discovered that the lights in the lower student parking lot appear to be off-cycle. So that's being looked at. We brought it up to Brian Joyce, and we have to figure out why that's not happening. But the lights aren't coming on for some reason in the lot. They weren't on when I came in tonight. And there is a real safety issue because of the stairs. So we are looking at it. I think somebody must have blown a fuse or something. It's like my Christmas tree lights outside.
Are they, I guess, are they ever on? Have they been tested? Do they work? I know the one.
They do work. They did in the past.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you come by and it's lit up like a Christmas tree out there, but not for a while, and I didn't
Right.
notice it.
Yeah, I've been up here at night going
Yeah.
down there 3 or 4 times, and it's pitch black.
Yeah.
Pitch black.
We don't want somebody to get hurt.
Right.
Well, there was a woman attending an event. She fell in the parking lot,
And then somebody else fell.
and then another mom's husband fell.
But I know they're looking at it,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we brought it to his attention.
Yeah.
So what I took away in terms of traffic lighting is that we were yellow on everything except for the second bullet point under communication and collaboration, where we just need to kind of circle back and see where we are on that relative to college outcomes. We're red on the first bullet point under finance around the replacement schedule for IT assets and furniture, and then we want to grade ourselves green on the third bullet point of 5 because we've liaised twice. Then that's kind of where we're at. Okay.
Okay, so there's one red.
2 reds. Second under number 3,
Oh, okay,
and first under number 4, and
Yep.
then 1 green
at the bottom,
at the bottom.
and everything else is yellow.
Yeah. And we'll have a second green soon when we do the school committee website, because that'll be
Yep.
easy green. Once
Yes.
we can.
Yeah, we just have to have the conversation, so,
Okay.
and I think it's gonna happen on Friday.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and document this and just circulate it back so that I've got it.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is reading of policies. JECA is on hold temporarily, so we'll look at policy JF-R, residential requirement for school membership. And this is the second reading.
So I just want to say there was a conversation about the grade 11 versus grade 12. And I haven't, I'm sorry, I can't get online here, but you
Sorry.
had, no, that's okay. Because I know. You had spoken to Roseanne about the implications of having it. Roseanne was concerned about sped implications if we went from 11th grade. So that's what you.
Yes, her advice was to stay with grade 12, I believe.
So that's why the switch. So if there were like, say, an out-of-district placement maybe.
That occurred within grade 12, 11.
Well, what it used to be is if a student finished the 11th grade, they were eligible to come back for 12th grade. The way this, and I made this note, the way this reads now is you have to start the 12th grade in the district if you want to stay.
Mhm.
I think that's challenging because
I do too.
parents make decisions to move prior to that, and how do you move and not have residency and start in the 12th grade? It's kind of like saying, this is our rule, yeah, and you can come here, but we're going to make it almost impossible.
I'll have to look at the language from Roseanne because it's been a while, but that was her recommendation, so I will look at her.
But we haven't had any issues.
Rationale.
We haven't had any issues with 11th graders staying in their 12th through
We
their 12th.
did say that to her.
Yeah. So I guess we could decide whether
Yeah.
we want to change it back to 11.
Well, it would be, say, if the student has completed 11th grade,
Yeah.
then
Then
they
the
can
11th
attend.
grade,
Completed 11th.
and whose parents give up their Cohasset residency after that time will be allowed to complete his/her senior year on a non-tuition basis. It's pretty simplistic.
Right, completing 11th grade. Not leaves in January and wants to come back in September for 12th grade.
Right. So it would say again, in addition, any student who has completed the 11th grade and whose parents give up their Cohasset residency after that time will be allowed to complete his/her senior year on a non-tuition basis.
Has completed 11th grade at CPS in Cohasset Public Schools.
Well, it's all about.
It is about, it's about,
Okay.
in order to attend the Cohasset Public
No,
Schools is where it starts, so.
So we want it, just so, we want to have it be like the old policy. So in addition, any student who has completed 11th grade and whose parents have given up residency
Yes.
may complete 12th grade in the system.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that the verification of Cohasset residency is great. I think that if there's any doubt that somebody is actually physically living here, every once in a while, somebody comes forward and says, do you know? So I think that these items that need to be provided, it's kind of like the I-9 form. It's 3 columns of potential documentation. I think that that's great. I think it's important that it has to be more than just a trash can pickup bill. It needs to be some kind of statement that says that the people are actually living here, like a lease or a deed or something. So I think that that's good. Anybody have any questions or comments on the rest? Okay. So you want to run this by Roseanne again, or we want to just keep it the way it is?
I think Roseanne's going to come back with the same advice.
Yeah.
We're disregarding.
We're disregarding her
Her,
advice.
her
so.
advice was if indeed the 11th grade stands and there is a determination for outside placement, we own the student for another additional 4 years. Till he's.
Until they're
she's
22?
Until they turn 22.
I guess I'm trying to imagine that
Yeah.
scenario where you get
Where in 11th grade,
after
you'd find
11th
out
grade,
that they
you had
needed
to go out of
special
district.
education services.
I can
Yes.
imagine that scenario.
I can imagine it very currently.
And I can
yes.
imagine someone moving into the district for that.
Okay.
It's the shopping for.
Yeah.
Well, if someone moves into the district, they move into the district. What we're talking about is people moving out of the district and allowing an 11th grader to stay
For 12th grade.
for 12th grade.
So I move in middle of 11th, finish my 11th, and go outside. It's just what Roseanne explained to us, that's
Yeah,
all. I
don't
can
know.
pass it by her again and ask for the actual language. I'm looking for it now, and I don't think it was in an email.
No, I
It was
have the email
discussion.
here, and at least what you sent to us, and says Roseanne wants us to consider any possible sped issues from grade 11 that would have budget implication. Perhaps the language should include if a student has begun 12th grade. So her solution was,
The student has to be currently enrolled
In
and
12th grade.
and living in the district, but
The
You
issue
really-
was that our October 1st is the enrollment where we own someone.
mhm.
So if someone moves in after October 1st in grade 11, we do not have that chapter 72. We don't have that number on our books. But in October 1st of the 12th grade, we do. I think that was the explanation at that point.
wondering whether we
So if someone moved in November of the 11th year, we don't have that accountability, it's still within the past district. October 1st of 12th grade, we do.
I was wondering whether, in the staff and children, children of staff, there's language around if you require sped services.
Right.
I'm wondering whether if we included, I'm just trying to find that language.
Like a disclaimer.
A disclaimer.
I don't think we're allowed to do that.
I don't
I
think
don't
you're
think
allowed
we
to
can
do that
either.
disclaimer. I don't think it's
It's
legal.
not legal.
But, okay.
We cannot exclude someone for enrollment. on that
They're either
basis.
in or they're out.
Yes.
And if they're in, then you,
Yes.
they're in
Yeah.
with all the associated expenses.
Wow. This has never been an issue here.
No,
So it's,
I wasn't part of this conversation, but I wonder if part of council's concern has to do with transition services that are now due to 18-year-olds until they turn 22 if they're not fully capable and able to function on their own in the world. And those are services that came about not that many years ago as a result of a court case with the town of Drake. And that has become expensive for districts.
And there's been talk of extending that period of the house.
And it's, and again, it's still that, the Drake decision, that wasn't on anybody's radar screen. But now it's created this whole class of people. It includes a number of students who, again, might not be fully successful on their own and are owed life skills services.
Don't flame me, but I think that if somebody wants their kids to finish the 12th grade here and maybe get transitional services, they'll find a way.
I think we're legally obligated though is the problem.
But changing it so that it says has begun the 12th grade is not going to make a difference.
Right.
Well, I guess
So I think that let's just leave it and call it a day. Because I really don't think that, I know that things pop up now that we never would have dreamt would pop up. But I think that if some student has come all the way through through their school career here, and they get done with grade 11 and they're told, sorry, you have to come to school on September whatever and still be living in the district in order to complete your senior year, you're going to need services.
It's not the services for the.
No, I'm
for
just
grade
being the
12
devil's advocate
we're
on
worried
that.
about. It's for the new.
Can I just ask a devil's, I mean, I guess on the flip side, how many, I can think of one just anecdotally in my own mind that has used this clause in the past. I mean, but how often is this actually
This is
utilized?
big for kids. This is a big issue.
I know it's a big issue for kids. I mean, but in the olden days, we
Yeah.
just went with mom and dad, wherever mom and dad moved.
I know of one that was in a year behind John, and his family he grew up in Cohasset, and his family moved to Hull.
Yeah, I know. That's the one I'm thinking of.
And, he was a 3-sport athlete, and he because of this provision, he was allowed to stay and finish his high school career academically, athletically, with his peers.
And that's one in a decade, because that person is now 26.
My concern is that for people moving into the district.
Like, can you? I'm not.
Like in
following.
11th grade, because I'm not following it either.
So if you had a very high needs student, you would shop for a district that might, well, I don't know.
Well, we're wondering when you're thinking that this person might move into the district. What grade?
11.
It doesn't matter when they move in, but there are parents that move in and take an apartment in Avalon.
Right.
And what we're saying is that
Oh, no,
you could take that apartment in Avalon in 9th grade. We would be responsible for that out-of-district placement, but that parent could go back to wherever their original home was, in some cases where the rest of their family is, and we would still have the remaining obligation until 22. That's what we're opening ourselves up to.
So is that a risk that we feel comfortable with?
I don't know because I don't know how
Yeah.
likely it's going to be. But I understand the risk that you're describing. I just don't know. I do know that people actively look for districts that aren't able to support needs in district in order to get an out-of-district placement that they're looking. People shop for the services, and they shop nationwide for those services. So, yeah.
I think it punishes the kids who grow up here.
I guess I'm.
Yeah.
It's not. I can't envision how this can happen if the parents make a decision to move and buy a house, and they move in the summertime. They're no longer residents, and therefore the kid can't even enroll in the 12th grade. So I don't know how he can start the 12th grade if the parents have already moved out of
Right.
town? And I don't know, my personal experience is parents aren't moving in October from Cohasset to Situate or Hull or Marshfield or whatever. They're moving.
No, we're talking about somebody deliberately using this clause in the case of out-of-district placement shopping. That's what we're talking about.
I understand that, but so if they're buying at Avalon, I mean, there's language in here, you know, that you have to establish residency, real residency.
I guess, Ellen, the only issue is, let's say they establish residency when the student's in ninth grade. We own that student from ninth grade until 22 under this, even if the parent leaves after 11th grade. So you own them 12th.
I don't want to speak for Roseanne.
Right.
Obviously, she would have to determine this. But I think in her thinking, in my conversation, is that a student has been denied outside placement in another district. So in 11th grade, I'm moving here in December. And I have finished my 11th grade here, and I'm moving back home. So I have a 6-month residency anywhere. I've rented a house here. I now fight this district, and we own that student until he's 22.
But not if they're not residents.
They would be resident if they took temporary resident here in December of 11th grade. It does not have to be a lifetime resident of Cohasset. It is a student of 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or 10 years. I think that was the legal mindset that we were hearing, but whatever you decide, it is a policy, and it is up to you.
Again, I don't want to hurt students that have grown up in Cohasset and denying them completing their. But on the flip side, I wish there was a way we could protect the district from what we know is a practice, which is shopping for districts around out-of-district placements.
So I don't think we can vote on this.
No, I don't either. So let's run it by Roseanne one more time, maybe.
If there's,
Explain our concerns. That, I mean, I really feel it's punitive to families who do grow up here. I really do. I think that it would not be right to exclude somebody who's come here for their whole school year, and because their parents, for whatever reason, can't afford to stay here, or I think that most people who are moving to Situate and Hull and Quincy or Marshfield are doing it because they've found a better deal somewhere else.
So could we?
And they're making a monetary decision that works better for their family.
So could we put a hardship clause in this?
You may do whatever you like.
Yeah, you open the door for
What's
people to have to
hardship?
prove what is hardship, you know, it's.
I think what we're talking about here is the punitive aspect of not including this clause to lifetime students in the district versus the protection relative to out-of-district shopping and the fact that it is a practice and it is increasing. So I guess.
If you want to hold on it, I will
Yes.
ask
Yeah,
Roseanne.
I wonder if there's
clarification.
other language that could include those who have.
I'll ask her rationale in writing and ask if there's a better language.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So why can we get away with that language in a contract versus not in a policy? I guess that's my question.
So you're referring.
Because it's an option. It's a
Oh.
volunteer, it's like a private school, we've asked. You're coming as of your own volition, as a staff member.
Okay.
Okay. And next is acceptance of international and exchange students.
So Louise checked in with Brian Scott and Carolyn, and they felt comfortable with 4. Because we had talked about moving it up to 4. Okay.
All right, does anybody have any other comments on different sections?
No.
No? Okay, so are we ready to vote this one?
Yes.
Okay, so this is policy JFABB, acceptance of international and exchange students. Do I have a motion to accept the policy as written?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jen, can I ask a question, policy related? I know that one of the things we had talked about was taking our current bullying policy and really cleaning it up to make it procedures versus policy, because right now we had a real blend of the two.
We did
That was done
do
already, I
that,
believe.
and leadership was, looked at it. and-
Leadership took out the procedural, I thought that was already
But
voted
it didn't
on.
come back to us.
No, it
Did
did
not?
No.
Because we were waiting for,
We did that, Michelle.
We did do that.
so we should put that on our next policy.
Mhm.
So
meeting.
you guys did the stripping, we just need to
We
now
did.
review the script policy.
But actually, we never got anything back from leadership on that, but we did do the work on it.
Okay.
I thought we had, but I'll double check.
I know we discussed it.
I know we did it.
Yeah, yes.
But yes.
When it comes to the committee, I think it would be helpful, since it was a extensive policy, which we knew we needed to kind of bisect into two pieces, a much shorter policy piece and a much longer procedure piece. It would be helpful for us to see the new policy and the procedure and the new,
Yes.
the new policy and new procedure kind of hand in hand, so we can say, okay, here are the two sides that were once married.
I'm going by recollection only, and I know that we had this discussion in subcommittee because we looked at other policies from other districts that were available on MASC and found that the excess was what the leadership had taken out,
Okay.
but it probably has not come back to you.
Okay.
But the work has been done.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is reports from subcommittees. Does anybody have anything to report? Ellen?
Do I have anything to report?
It's not a subcommittee, your little liaison gig that y'all participated in today.
Yeah, so the Cohasset 250th Anniversary Committee had their unveiling of their new logo down at the quite beautiful Sailing Club Center. I
Very
hadn't-
nice.
Hadn't been there. Yeah.
Roaring fire in the fireplace, it was fabulous. Ice flows on the water, lobster boats behind, it was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, like, well, a little segue, like, if you need a venue for 30 or 40 people, it's quite
Yeah,
lovely.
Beautiful.
So, no, it was great, and good turnout. I was reminiscing with classmates from 78, 79, 80, and 84, which was nice. And so the logo was unveiled, and there were lots of representation, and the student's name was Elizabeth
Coletta.
Coletta, yep, who is now, she started the project a year ago as a senior here, and she's now a freshman in Suffolk University. So it was nice, and 2020's fast approaching.
That's great. I had two things to report. One was, went to Elder Affairs on Monday. And as typical as in budget season, their one question was, are the schools following financial policies, and are we going to be increasing our budget in a way that will result in a 2.5 prop override? And I was able to say that no. There's just
We don't want that.
I understand, but to your point, if there are definitely constituents in this town that worry quite a bit about the implications of school spending, and so I was happy to report that we participated in long-range planning. They did talk. There was actually a board member who has a grand skipper pass, and she was saying how great it's been, and she's been talking it up to friends who many of whom don't know about it. So I think the Elder Affairs was actually going to do another blitz to try and publicize it. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that it was very well received, but there might be some more people coming in.
We want more.
Looking for lanyards.
Yeah, and she said that she's been to a lot of basketball games and really enjoyed it. So
that's
that
great.
was really nice to report. And then, last but not least, budget and finance. Maybe we just take a second and coordinate around the 22nd. The 22nd, we're double booked with AEC and capital budget. We haven't heard back, and Ellen did recommend that we start the capital budget meeting early, and the AEC meeting starts at 7:30.
Right.
But Sam hasn't committed.
Right. I thought I would try and catch up with him on the phone
Okay.
and just have a conversation
Okay.
about his thought process for the timing for the meeting.
Okay.
Okay? I just didn't get to it today.
And that's,
It's a little crazy.
and I don't know what his committee's ability is to start at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, they may not be able to, but maybe it could even shift to a different night for our discussion process.
I
What do you
think,
think?
I think that's problematic because the following Monday is long range planning, and then we get into February. So I guess my question, Jean, is do we all need to be at AEC, or can we do a bit of divide and conquer?
We don't all have to be there. I just thought it would be nice for people to hear the discussion, so.
And again, I don't know where Sam is at. If he can even make it 6 o'clock and we can get a big chunk of it done before some of us switch out for AEC, that would be better than, you know. And again, if we started at 5, I don't think we have a time conflict. But
Yeah.
I think if he starts at 7,
It
it's
may
not going
be
to work.
It may not work.
And he's already, because we have 11 requests, we know that we've got 2 meetings.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, they are, just like we're scheduled for the 13th, they're scheduled for the 6th to go in front of Board of Selectmen Advisory. So this is the first year where capital actually has a firm deadline. So Sam literally has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Mondays. I mean, he can meet besides the Monday, but his committee's.
Let me call him, I'll call him tomorrow at lunchtime,
Okay,
see if I can catch up. And if I don't, then maybe after work,
okay.
and see what it looks like. I mean, it's still 2 weeks away, so there's a
Okay.
possibility that he could get in touch with his folks and they might be able to
Yeah.
change the time.
And he did ask in an email, because I've been corresponding back and forth with him around just making sure that he has the right list of requests.
Good.
He did ask us to kind of indicate what was going to come on the 22nd and what could be pushed to a later date. So Ellen and I will kind of
Okay. Look at the list.
look at the list
prioritize
and
what we want to
prioritize.
discuss.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the bigger conversation items on one and then group some smaller ones on another. There are
No,
there are no smaller ones.
No, there are.
There are
Yeah,
some
but-
easier.
smaller ones.
But it may not work that way.
I mean, there are some things like bus lease and digital
Yeah.
learning leases. There are some things that theoretically should be easy conversations.
Theoretically, yes.
Exactly. So perhaps if we could group some of those on the 22nd, and then, and again, and I guess in full disclosure, the 29th, long-range planning starts at
Yeah.
6:30, so if you wanted to have a follow-up conversation on the 29th and have a part 2 that starts at 7:30, my guess is that we could do that. So maybe offer, I've been blocking the 29th, but now that I think about it, I could just go from one to the other. The long-range
Long-range planning isn't that late, it isn't that long, isn't always a long meeting.
Well, and Tracy just corresponded with me around the agenda, and I think they're really talking about doing a quick rundown on where the governor's budget is at, what, if any, updates they've had on Maya healthcare expenses. So it theoretically, from what she was telling me today, it should be a short one. So maybe when you talk to Sam, if we do a part 1 on the 22nd that starts on the earlier side, and we commit to a part 2 on the 29th, if he hasn't already given away the date, that would get us all our 11 requests done.
Well, he'll have to be at long-range planning.
Right.
They have not, Capital's not been at long-range planning. Susan is never there, and Sam is there about 50% of the time. He won't make it a priority.
Okay.
Sorry, that was the other part of my thought process. He's not going to be there on the 29th.
He'll be somewhere else.
Well,
Meeting
I
others,
think they're literally going to be meeting every Monday.
Okay.
If they're going to have a shot at getting their work done.
Okay. I'll let everybody know what I find out.
Whatever you negotiate, I guess we'll make work.
Okay.
That was it for me.
Okay. Anybody else? School council was postponed because of
Yeah, because
weather.
of the storm, it was supposed
Yeah.
to be Thursday,
Okay,
Ill-fated.
yep. Okay, and we do not have any approval of minutes to happen tonight. And follow-up and updates, that's just a placeholder on the list, unless you have something that you wanted to go through, Ellen.
No, I do not.
Okay, great. And I do not have any topics not reasonably anticipated, but we do need to go into executive session for the purpose of number 3, strategy related to collective bargaining with union personnel, CTA. And then just before the meeting, I discovered that we also need to discuss the custodial staff contract also. So do I have a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of number 3?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call, please.
I, Katie Dugan.
Aye, Gina Stino.
Aye, Ellen Mar.
Hi, Jen Madden.
And we will reconvene in public simply to adjourn. And I need to use the restroom before we start.